Hi! In this video, we'll be talking about computer organization, how computers are organized on the inside. So what are the main parts of a computer? Well, really there are two main categories. Computer parts are divided into hardware and software. So the hardware is the physical components of your computer. It's those physical things that you can touch and hold, usually made of silicon or metal. That is the hardware, the physical pieces that make up your computer. Now, the software are the programs that run on the computer and make your computer do the things that you want it to do. These programs aren't physical things that you can touch. Instead, they are just ideas. They are instructions that are given to the computer that have it do the interesting things. Now, there are several subcategories with all these computer parts. We have network devices and storage devices, input devices and output devices. Some of these devices are purely hardware, and some of these devices have both hardware and software components. We'll be diving into each of these subcategories and seeing what all these devices are. So we'll start with output devices. Now, what are output devices? Well, output devices are how your computer tells you things. Output devices allow your computer to get information from inside the computer out into the outside world. So output devices allow your computer to display information, give audio signals like music, and really, in general, output devices transform the digital information stored inside your computer into physical information that you can actually understand and interact with, things like lights and sounds. So really, behind the scenes, at the core of it, inside the computer, everything is stored as numbers. Everything is stored as digits. That's why we call it digital information. But that's not very useful to humans. We can't look at a bunch of ones and zeros and get any useful information about that. So the output devices allow your computer to take that digital information, those ones and zeros, and actually do useful things with it. So if your computer reads the number 28, it might put a blue pixel on your screen. Or if it reads the number 32, it might put a yellow pixel on your screen. Things like this. It's taking those digital numbers behind the scenes and turning them into physical information. So what are some output devices that display visual information? Well, we have things like monitors, we have things like video cards, and things like projectors. These are all output devices that take digital information and turn them into visual information. We have output devices for audio. We have things like speakers and sound cards and headphones. We have output devices that take digital information and turn them into actual physical objects, things like laser printers or inkjet printers or even 3D printers. Then we have input devices. Input devices are how you give your information to the computer. It allows information to go from the outside world into the computer. So input devices allow you to interact with your computer and turn physical data into digital data. It's taking this kind of messy, chaotic physical data like sound and light and noise and touch and turning that into well-formed digital data that are simply numbers that the computer can store and work with. So we have several interactive input devices that are taking your touch and turning that into information the computer can understand. Things like touchpads or trackpads, mouses, keyboards, joysticks, remotes, and touchscreens are all ways that we can give input into the computer. We also have input devices that are constantly monitoring the outside world and capturing information about it to be stored as numbers inside the computer. Things like scanners, microphones to store audio information, digital cameras to store visual information, webcams, and sensors that are doing all sorts of things. For example, here's an airplane cockpit. We have several airplane sensors that are constantly gathering information like altitude, direction, humidity, things like this. And these dials are the output devices. They get information from the input devices, which are the sensors, and then they output that information to the user in the form of the dial. Then we have storage devices. So what are storage devices? Well, storage devices are how your computer is able to remember information and store it for later. So storage devices are really the computer's memory. They allow computers to store information to retrieve later, and they allow us users to save data for later. And there's two categories. There's primary storage and secondary storage. So primary storage is the memory that the computer uses just to perform its normal activity. When the computer is on and operating, it's doing several calculations a second, and it needs space to store numbers for these quick calculations. And so this is the primary storage. This memory is cleared when the power is turned off. This memory needs power to be on in order to work. Now, this memory is called RAM, which stands for Random Access Memory, and we'll get to more info on this later. But this memory is very, very quick to access, but it needs power, and it's constantly changing. Then we have secondary storage. Now, this storage is extra memory used for persistent storage. So this is where we can store things permanently. Whether there's power or not, secondary storage continues to store the data that we want to store. And examples of this are CDs, USB drives, hard drives, floppy disks, and cloud storage. These are all places that we can put these numbers, this digital data, we can store it in these storage devices and then pull it back out later. And finally, we have network devices. Network devices are how your computer communicates with other computers. And this is huge. This is a very important application of computers, is that they are able to talk to each other and send information from one computer to another. This has led to incredible things like the internet. So what are networks? Well, the idea of a network is that computers usually don't directly communicate between one another. We don't have links going from every computer to every other computer. Instead, what we do is we have these central locations that your computer connects to. So your computer connects to one central location, and then that central location looks at the information that you've sent and passes it on to the proper location. Now, this machine sitting in the center is a very special machine, and it's called a router. So a router is the center of the network. It receives and analyzes data from computers, and it routes the information to where it's supposed to go. It's kind of like the traffic controller of the network. It receives data from computers and forwards it along to where it's supposed to go. And it can also receive and analyze data set from other routers on other networks. And doing this, we can actually connect two different networks to each other. So there are a couple kinds of networks. First off, we have a local area network, or a LAN for short. So a local area network is very small. It connects computers that are very close to each other, such as in the same building. And it can usually be connected with one single router. We might have one router in one building that connects 8 different computers. Now we have wide area networks, or a WAN for short. Now a wide area network connects computers that are very far away from each other. And to do this, it needs multiple routers and special cables that can span very long distances. Now a wide area network is usually made up of several smaller local area networks. So a wide area network will connect several different buildings, each of which have their own local area network. So the internet is actually one example of a wide area network. The internet connects your computer to all other computers by connecting together all these smaller networks. And the way it does this is with the routers. The routers are really the important device here that are receiving information and forwarding it along to where it needs to go. So the important network devices that we need to remember are routers, which receive and analyze data sent from other networks. But how exactly do we connect to this router? There's a couple ways that we might actually get information from a computer to a router. One is through an Ethernet port. So an Ethernet port allows an Ethernet cable to be attached to your computer. An Ethernet is just one way to physically connect to a router, and it connects through a cable. That is, you're sending information through that cable. Then we have a wireless internet card, or a Wi-Fi card, and this allows you to connect to a router by sending radio waves to the router. And so these are the different network devices: routers, Ethernet ports, and wireless internet cards. And that is a brief overview of some of the most important computing devices.